to the Two Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett, and before we get into today's episode with Chris Lebron of Off the Ball Network, wanted to let you know about today's presenting sponsor, SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the major ticketing app where you get to view your seat directly from the mobile app or the computer of most venues throughout the U.S. Super easy to use. Able to get $20 off your first purchase. Code 2Pointers, TWOPOINTERS. Code 2Pointers. Link in the top of the description. Takes you to the SeatGeek app or the website to be able to make that first purchase. Concerts throughout the summer. NBA playoffs are kicked up. NHL playoffs. Baseball throughout the year. Super cheap baseball tickets in the U.S. right now. So you're able to get $20 off. Might get some really good seats. Don't forget to use code 2Pointers. Link in the top of the description. Had a really good time with Chris. We talked Knicks, Cavs at the top. Had a question for each NBA playoff series, so you'll hear some of our thoughts, not necessarily some of the basketball, but just some of the things that intermittent underlying storylines that are really important for the playoffs. And then we talk a little draft at the end as well. So enjoy the show with Chris.
Bing bong.
All right, joining me today is Chris Lebron of Off the Ball Network. We're going to talk to Chris today. Obviously, for those of you that know the name already, we're going to talk about the Knicks. That's the top of the show. It's going to be the obvious thing, the thing he probably gets pulled into. I'll try to make sure that we're doing a little bit more interesting. We're going to hit at least one question, pretty similar format here to shows I've done in the past. We're going to hit some questions about the playoff series, each playoff series individually in the first round. Prefacing this is Monday. I believe it's April 24th, so some of these games will happen tonight. I'll talk about it a little bit. Lakers, Grizzlies is tonight at 10, and then Bucks Heat is tonight at 7:30. Maybe missing a couple, but long story short, some of this stuff might be outdated by the time it goes out on Tuesday, so just keep that in mind. If you hear it, anything either of us say, just be careful there. But without further ado, Chris, my friend, thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
The pleasure to be on the show, Trevor, man. I'm looking forward to this, man. I'm excited. My team's up 3-1, so it's a beautiful time in New York City right now.
So you do live in New York City?
Yes, I do.
That was one of the first questions I was going to ask, was just a little bit about, like, what it's like right now. You already mentioned it a little bit, but first of all, since you're in New York and we'll talk about the Knicks and Cavs in just a second. Talk about what, you cover a lot of great things here. Your Twitter bio is like a storybook, right? Trying to understand all the stuff. So just give my listeners who might not know the name or know what you cover a little bit about what you do and some of the stuff that you'll be talking about today.
Yeah, so I host my own podcast. I have two podcasts. I just started another one, college basketball season called Get a Bucket Podcast. I cover college basketball. We cover recruiting, the grassroots scene in high school basketball, AAU, and all that. We just did an episode, so you can go check that out. I host my own podcast, the Off the Ball Podcast. Essentially all NBA stuff, NBA draft and all that. That's kind of how my show kind of took off at the NBA draft. I had Matt Babcock on in 2020, right the start of COVID, I believe, or right before COVID and all that. And that show really did well. And I kind of just did a lot, started to dive into more draft stuff and all that. So the show kind of took off, interviewed some NBA prospects and all that. And then decided, I think I should run a network, a little mini, underground sports network. And we talked about Maurice. That's my guy. He helped me, launch it and all that. And we did it, that summer, the next summer or that summer, I believe. And I've had a lot of success with it as being, a very respected underground sports network. I have a lot of guys who have gone on to do pretty cool stuff. Went on to, covering the draft or being scouts or whatever, or writing for ESPN or whatever, Sports Illustrated. We've had a lot of cool people go through. So it's been a lot of fun, man. You're just covering the game of basketball. I forget about every other sports. I'm so so into basketball that, like, I used to do a lot of NFL draft stuff, right, for the NFL. I couldn't tell you who's in the NFL draft and all that. Like, I just don't know anything.
I'm glad I'm not alone in that, because I literally had that epiphany this week when someone was texting me about the NFL, and I was like, buddy, I'll be honest, I'm just so deep into basketball now because of covering stuff and writing now and all this stuff, and I'm like, do I really? I mean, I could probably tell you 5 or 6 prospects that I'm really excited about, and most of them are because they play for my Buckeyes. So it's kind of like, that's not good to be able to be like, wow, who's that 8th guy off the board? Crazy. I watch college football, but not like that. So baseball is the worst. It had to be the casualty because, like, I love baseball, but, like, I like the World Series. I like the playoffs. Like, I'll watch all that stuff, no problem. But I'm with you. I'm glad I'm not alone in that.
No, NFL. People asking me, I was like, I'm not in it like I used to with the draft, NFL draft.
I admit it too.
Baseball is like, I don't know as much as I used to. There's some guys when I'm a Giants fan and I'm a Yankees fan. There's some guys they're on the team. I'm like, who's the safety on the Giants? I
Yeah.
didn't know he was on the team. I've been watching for 3 straight weeks, but I just don't pay attention like I
Yeah.
used to, and all that, So it's kind of crazy how much this basketball stuff has kind of just took off and all that. Where I'm all in. I'm watching Nike EYBL. I'm watching Adidas stuff. I'm just all in. I'm watching that instead of the Yankees playing. Whoever they're playing right now, the Whites, whoever. I'm more into that, than watching other sports or what's going on in the draft. I haven't watched any NFL draft stuff. I don't even know if the Giants are interested in it, but it's just
That's what
basketball,
makes.
man. It took over, man.
We'll
It
talk
just
about
took
it a
over.
little bit at the end, but the NBA draft, like that's what makes the NBA draft more fun. Is like it's 60 picks, it's one night, it's guys I care about, it's guys
It
I've
ends
watched
quick.
in college.
Yep.
The
One
NFL's
night.
like 3 days. Like I've got to care about this. Like I mean, after round 1, like you only care for your team or guys from colleges that you like or went to. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like otherwise, no one cares. Like it's anyway. All right,
100%.
let's talk about what we actually care about. That's the part we're here. So Cavs Knicks. Obviously, your Knicks are up 3-1 through last night or yesterday afternoon. I think it was. I love Sundays in the playoffs, especially in the first round, because it's just game after game after game after game. It's amazing. We'll talk a little bit about the game, and then I said I had a little question, or some of them are going to be a little game. First one's going to be a little game after we talk about the series a little bit. But just talk me through some of what you've seen this series that you're really excited about. You obviously mentioned 3-1. It's a really big accomplishment to be here after a couple of different offseason moves that could have went in a lot of different ways, and that's I'm sure what we'll talk about in a second. But where are you? What's the feeling like? Be a fan for a minute, and then we'll actually talk whatever you
It's crazy. Sometimes I don't put my fan hat enough. Like I said, dived into so much bad, and I feel like trying to be like a respected, I guess media. I guess we can call us media in a way.
throw around whatever word you want. That's up to
Yeah.
you.
So like sometimes I leave that on, but then I'm like, my team's up 3-1. The Knicks are up 3. Trev, like if I did my preseason with the East, I got everyone right, all top 10 teams where I thought were going to make the playoff, obviously, and relatively like 1 or 2 spots. The one team I probably undermined most was my own team, the Knicks. I had them 10th and all that, because I thought they're definitely going to be better. They're going to be improved, but like, yes, we finally got a point guard, but how good is Brunson going to be? I don't think anyone thought Brunson would be like he should have been an all-star. A borderline type all-star, and he might maybe even be 13 all NBA. Like, I don't think anyone saw. If I would have known that, if someone said, yo, there's a chance he could be all NBA, I'd be like, oh, well, if you're gonna tell me that, and then Randall's gonna play like he did 2 years ago, yeah, I think they could win 45 games, all that, because I had them in that 38 to 42 range and all that. And they just blew it. They blew expectations for me by like 10, 10 games or whatever. Like it was it's very exciting right now. Up 3-1, and then going into team that we kind of competed with for the player that we thought we were gonna have, and he thought he was gonna be a Nick, Donovan Mitchell. So like it just made more drama for the series, and to be up 3-1 right now and to make the Cavaliers look like, just look suspect right now. That they're floundering. They don't know, their offense is all over. And we knew their offense was kind of not great and all that, but to have them really flustered the way they are right now, it's been a really good effort by Tibbs and company to really put it on this Cavs team. And Jalen Brunson has just been he's been tremendous, man. It's thank you, Dallas. Thank you, Mark Cuban. That's all I could say. They've given us a few presents that we didn't think that were going to be this good, but it's thank God they did. They did not re-sign him for $55 million, which they could have gotten for dirt, and they could have definitely used them this year. So it's been awesome to see one more. I'm not going to get too excited because it's not over yet, and I'm one of those people who think it's let's let it be over, and then we can get excited. So it's been fun though, man. I'm really excited.
Yeah, and look, Stephen A puts his fan hat on every time. So, like, just if he can do it, then I think we can all do it. So, I like that you mentioned the offensive point. There's some series I'll have less commentary on just because at the end of the day, it is hard to watch every game and every series. I try my best to. That's why I don't cancel League Pass. That's why I don't cancel League Pass until after the first round, because then you can rewatch the games the day after and stuff. So it's great. Like you will catch it up in the morning, but the Cavs where I lie way too much on Mitchell. Like I thought that was just the glaring obvious point. And we saw when they won game 2, the Cavs did. Darius Garland was like, you guys had to take everything seriously. Whether Jalen Brunson is a stellar defender on Garland or not, they're both small guards. They're both not good defenders. So it's okay that those two are matched up on each other. But basically, any guy that was switched between between Garland was going to have to decide whether he was making a play or making a shot. And it was, that when they're in that position, that's why the third quarter was so scary yesterday as if you're Knicks fans, because Garland came out hot, and you're having to decide whether he's a playmaker or a scorer or both. And when he's in that kind of mode, they're unstoppable, Cleveland is. But the problem is they can't get that for 48 minutes from him. So
yeah,
that was kind of the only real takeaway I had, was just the figuring out the Garland minutes next year and figuring out how Mitchell can't be so reliant.
Well, I said after game one, right? Yes, Donovan Mitchell, he went off. I think he went at 38 points, whatever he had, but they didn't get Garland enough. And to me, I feel like they worked better when Garland has the ball in his hand, and now you don't need Donovan to do everything. Because then, so when he gets a little wild and all that, and he's not, he's not getting his teammates involved. You saw that in game two. They made the adjustments, right? So Garland with the ball in his hand more, and now you have Donovan, kind of playing more off ball and all that, and they had success. They destroyed us and all that. And I think that's probably what better for them. But also, when you don't have a bench, you got to insert Caris LeVert. Yes, Caris LeVert is very up and down. That's kind of been his career. But you're not getting much from Okoro offensively and all that. We saw last game not this game, the game 3 at the Garden. Okoro got 2 fouls. He didn't play. That was it. It was over. It's like, yeah, he's solid defensively, but he doesn't provide you anything offensively scoring. So that's their issue right now. And Donovan was not good last game and all that. He looked very flustered and all that. And they had some good shots too. They just weren't going in and all that. And, their bigs were not playing real tough. Their bigs kind of a little bit soft. Jared Allen was playing a little bit soft. I mean, Isaiah Hartenstein is getting rebounds over you. And you would think a team with 2 bigs like that would be a better rebound team, but they were really bad especially on the offensive side. Rebounds, they're just not good and all that. So it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough for them to come back, but we'll see what happens. You can't count them out. I'm not gonna count them out yet. They still got Donovan who can take over and all that. Garland can score. They're gonna go back to the crib and all that. So and then anything happens if you win game 5. But it hasn't been pretty offensively for them at all.
Yeah, you mentioned the defensive stuff with the 2 bigs. It is concerning as an Evan Mobley voter to, not second guess myself, because I've got all the stock on Evan Mobley Island. I'll buy everyone else's stock when it's low, but
I got some stock too.
It is concerning. It is like, okay, this is a place where he should be able to at least put up a fight defensively against a couple. And Randall hasn't had like an unbelievable
he
series.
hasn't been good. He hasn't been good. He got benched. He got benched.
Yeah, okay. I thought the media availability thing was weird from him. It's like, why be mad when you're up 3-1? Like, I get it. Like, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't mad. Maybe it was just I don't know.
That's just Julius Randle.
I know. As I'm a Lakers fan, I know the hat doesn't say it. I'm a Lakers fan. We'll talk about them later. They're actually the last series I had in order here, but because it'll be tonight. But he was a lot of fun. But when it's fun, it's fun. But when it's not, you gotta just hold your breath.
Exactly.
One thing I'll throw out too, you and I will get along on this accord alone. I'm an RJ Barrett truther. I made fun of in all my fantasy basketball groups. I'm relatively new to fantasy basketball. I just didn't play it growing up like a lot of people did. And I traded for him in a lot of places. I've always believed in RJ. I always thought he was the second best player in his draft, whatever. Like, I just am there, right? I'm not going to give up on him until whatever. And the crowd really got in behind him in game 4. I noticed that. I thought that was interesting. That has no rhyme or reason I'm bringing it up other than the crowd I thought was really neat. The way they're just, y'all are bought in until he's gone. Like, whatever, right? Whether that's 15 years from now, whether that's next year in a trade. But I did want to bring up a stat that I found that was really, it kind of blew my mind, and then we'll get into the question for this series. RJ Barrett's one of only 5 guys all time to score 3,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 200 threes before turning 22. That stat doesn't sound that good until you realize who the other 4 guys on the list are. LeBron, Luka, KD, and Jason Tatum. So that is the list of guys that have in under 22 years old. Anthony Edwards will probably be, if he hasn't already, since this stat was, I think I found this stat like 3 weeks ago. Anthony Edwards is probably already on that list, if not going to be there. Yeah. Because he literally is the only other guy other than LeBron to have 5 30-point games or something. I saw that yesterday. So it's like Barrett's in some good company, and he's not as bad as people are giving him credit for. So I just think it needs to be said publicly as much as I've already said it. And I'm like, if you have any addition to this conversation, this will be clipped and used anytime I have an RJ Barrett hater in my comments.
It's I've gone back and forth with RJ and all that.
I understand.
I've gone back and forth because there's times, especially first half of seasons, he struggled, and then the second half he definitely bounces back. This year was different. Didn't quite have didn't shoot the ball well at the end of the season. It's really struggled. But I noticed that too with the crowd. Usually, in that case, a New York crowd would still sour on RJ, but I'm very proud that the fans, I don't know if this was planned or it just happened naturally, that they just got behind him.
They
And
understood the
sometimes as a
moment.
player, yeah, they understood the moment. This is not the regular season. This isn't game 58 versus Oklahoma City or Orlando. This is the playoffs. This is a big time. He needs that. He struggled, especially the first two games and all that. And we need him in order for us to win this series and maybe, and have success in the next series if we advance. We need RJ to play to wade in. And he definitely did that. And I feel like as a player, that definitely helps you. Get the crowd saying your name, especially at home and all that. Like that's big. And I feel like he definitely helped him. In the last two games to definitely get him back on track because we need him. We need him to definitely because we had him if he's cooking, especially when if Randall, and maybe the ankle's still bothering him, Randall, but we just can't rely on if Randall's not going to continue to struggle and the ankles bother him. Someone got to step up, and the third best player on this team is RJ Barrett. So we needed to step up, and he stepped up big time. It's getting to the basket, feeling comfortable, doing stuff that we know he can do, but he just for some reason just gets in his head, maybe it's a little too much. It was great to see him feel comfortable and hoop, and that was he did his thing in game three. Big reason why we're up 3-1.
I'll let RJ Barrett haters and Knicks fans debate that he's the third best player on the team. We're not going to do that because I'm with you, even though Josh Hart is really good. So
man,
the question, I know we could literally spend 30 minutes. I hate to
I could do a whole podcast about him.
I know. I hate to do that. I hate to move on, but he's at this point, if people don't know if he's good or not, that's their own fault. This podcast is not going to change their mind, right?
No.
So the question I had for this series, I'm going to preface a couple things. I'll be really quick, and then we can keep moving. So I spent way too long on this list going through every Knicks free agent that was either a notable name or a notable contract length. And I want to be clear on that. I don't have any of the contract lengths. We're not discussing these guys. It just needs to be said for the context of the question. You can laugh. I think it's funny. So since 1996, I'm going to read the names. People can just think about this, right? Allen Houston, I know that was a pretty big deal. He re-signed, one of the best players in the last 30 years in the team history, right? That one's understood. Kurt Thomas, Jared Jeffries, Raymond Felton, Mike Bibby, J.R. Smith, Jason Kidd. Again, some of these are names. Jason Kidd played 12 games. Okay, I know that, but he's a name. I'm just throwing it out there, free agent. Rasheed Wallace, same thing, Meta World Peace. Kenyon Martin, Aaron Aflalo. Yes, he was significant. That's revisionist history. Please go look him up if you haven't. Robin Lopez, Joakim Noah, Courtney Lee, Tim Hardaway Jr., Bobby Portis. Forgot about the Bobby Portis year, didn't you?
Yeah.
I did. Elfrid Payton, Julius Randle, Wayne Ellington, Taj Gibson, Reggie Bullock, Isaiah Hartenstein, and then the reason for this question that you know why we're here is Jalen Brunson the best free agent signing since 1996 in your team's franchise history?
It is so far. It definitely is so far.
Right?
Now, there's more years, and we can talk on this podcast in 3 years and be like, man, we only got one good year out of Brunson and all that. But as of now, yeah, it's definitely
it's a simple answer. I knew the answer when I put this question together, but that research was worth it because honestly, finding pre-96 was really hard, and I honestly got tired of trying to look. So I mean, Basketball Reference is only so easy to find, but look through. But Allen Houston's the only fighting chance on that, other than I think
some of those names, Trev. Just give me
some of those names played I promise you, some of those guys played 3 games. I just left them in there because they were names.
Jerome James, they signed Jerome James. After one good series with the Sonics, one good series where I forgot who they played that series, but they gave him $40 million and he played nothing. Who's another bad one?
Rasheed was honestly should not have even I understand it, but he shouldn't have been signed.
Yeah, he shouldn't have been signed. But that's they were just trying to see if they had anything left in him, and
that was after he had played 2 years
viral
overseas.
Moments. Yeah, it's some good viral moments with him and all that. Like Jared Jeffries. Oh, I can't. He's my number one.
I threw that one in there.
Oh, I couldn't stand Jared Jeffries. We gave him all that money just to do nothing. I felt like
I think he re-signed too. He was on the list twice.
He came back. He came back a few years back, if I recall, and all that. But yeah, Robin Lopez was back because we wanted to. I think we traded him right after the.
Yeah, Joakim Noah was a bad one too, unfortunately.
Oh, you can't say that guy's name in New York. Him and Phil Jackson's name are banned from the Garden. You can't say it. They're still paying Joakim, I think, or they just finished paying him. And they deferred the payments and all that. But that was an awful. He was coming off, I think, an injury with Chicago, and they just said, you know what, let's give you $70 million. And I was like, why? This is some bad. But the point guard, them not ever figuring out in New York City, like
I know.
what we're known for. If you say, all right, what position is New York City known for? Even if you've never been to New York, you're like, point guard.
Yeah,
It's just like you
unfortunately.
just, but some bad names.
It
Rough
might be.
name.
Look, we might be looking back, like you said, revisionist history here, and might be like that was a dumb question, but I really do think it's the right answer right this moment, and that's no disrespect to Allen Houston. I think he's underrated.
Yeah, when
Honestly.
we signed him, it was bad. I think they gave him like $100 million, and he got hurt right away.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, let's move on to Bucks Heat because that game is happening as we're recording this in less than an hour. So all the context of this question, I'm trying to keep it like series aside. I'm trying not to let Game 4 be obviously important to this conversation because the Heat are up 2-1. Obviously, Giannis, as of right this moment, barring another setback, he will play tonight. That was the last tweet. Literally happened as we started.
They need him.
Butler and Bam. I got a text at 4:00. Butler and Bam were listed as doubtful. So I'm a little confused. Haven't seen that anywhere publicly, so I really don't know where that text is coming from. So I haven't cross-checked that. So I just want people to know if they are out, then this conversation will not matter. But I'll lead with the question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that the Bucks win this series, and then how confident that they make the finals?
Well, it all depends on Giannis. It's that simple. I think they could win the series without Giannis. I think Holiday and Middleton can get it done without Giannis. It would probably go 7 and all that, but I don't think they can make the finals without Giannis. Everything was predicated on Giannis. If Giannis is 85%, I think they can do it. But if they advance, let's say they figure out how to beat Miami in 6 or whatever, they're gonna play the Knicks most likely, and that's gonna be a physical series. And if you don't got a healthy Giannis, I'm not saying we're gonna win and all that, but like it's gonna be tough. So if you're gonna give me Giannis, if Giannis is there, if he's healthy, I I think Philly or Celtics winner is going to the finals. I had the Sixers going into the season as my Eastern Conference representative, and I've kind of stuck with it. Like I stick with my guns and all that. I did it out west too with the Clippers. And
I picked them the
we'll
last
talk
2
about that
years to make the finals, so I'm out unfortunately on the Sixers bandwagon. But
yeah. I'm gonna stick with. I think the Sixers or Celtics, won't wind up getting to the final. So I think the Bucks fall short with or without Giannis. If without Giannis, they might make it out of the first round possibly, but with them, I think definitely to the next round. But now finals.
Yeah. So and that's the context of the question. Is like I said, it's this question will matter more tomorrow when this game result is done, or at 10:00 tonight when we know if it's 2-2 or 3-1, because. If it's 2-2, then obviously the Bucks can probably win this series. It's going to be an uphill battle. There's no guarantee. And honestly, the only thing that's really a big takeaway from this series is just injuries do suck. I mean, ultimately, I know it was the charge block. I'm not here to debate the charge block thing.
Yeah.
I think we all have an opinion on it. But, I mean, obviously, Hero went down with that wrist injury. He's probably not back for, unless they make the finals, which would be crazy.
That's probably the only time he's going to play. Yeah.
Oladipo is a 6-month injury. I just found out this morning. That's
crazy.
He
he ruptured his patella tendon,
which is just, I mean, talk about a guy that really just that his stock is really that draft class. Yeah, that draft class really needs his stock to be good. Like that draft class is tough. Like Giannis is carrying that draft class. Okay, like
God.
He was
just
number
doing
2.
Something. Me and someone were talking about that draft class. We're like, what?
It's gonna go down as one of the worst all time. It really is.
Giannis wasn't like a top 5 pick. He was like 14th, 15th.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if there's not Giannis. Like this can go down as one of the worst drafts. Like it was bad.
It's gonna be up there even if Giannis is an all perennial all-star.
Even with Giannis,
famer,
it's still not like he can't cover it up enough. Like he can only his accolades might make it look solid, but it's like
Cody Zeller might be the 4th best player in that draft class history. I swear. Like this is not a draft podcast, but it is bad.
I just want to know the thought process in that class of like, why did you select this guy? Like,
because there was somebody else better. It's one of those ones.
Just trade back at that point. Like you just like, all right, let's just move back because these guys aren't good.
Yeah,
like
Anthony Bennett like trades back. Really
everybody trade back. Let's just get 2nd round picks.
It's bad. I mean, let's just do it real quick because I mean I've brought it up before. Most win shares in this draft class all time. Giannis 96.1, Rudy Gobert 94.4. Who was a 2nd round pick, I believe, and then Steven Adams 59.3. Steven Adams does help that bump a little bit. I mean, I love how
Yeah,
this
even
series
Rooney
is so.
three defensive
Yeah.
player of the year. That helps a
Yeah.
little bit. Makes it a little better, about like average maybe, or a
Only
little
three
below
All
average.
Stars all time, which is what I look at. I evaluate All Stars when it comes to draft class strength. Giannis, Gobert, and Oladipo. So
Yeah,
it's tough.
yeah,
It's tough.
tough,
It's one of those ones I don't
tough.
want to go through the list because I would be here all night. But yeah, that I hate to, and I don't want Bucks and Heat fans to be mad at us for not really talking about this series. But like right now, Game 4 is really where this series kind of has its conversation rolling because then we
Yeah,
know what's happening.
we don't know how to really evaluate this series because Giannis is hurt, and then now Miami has 55 guys hurt. It's like, it's just kind of hard to evaluate. It's like, all right, whoever's the healthiest is
Yeah.
going to win. Especially if you're talking about Giannis, and all that. And then what we got Hero out, Oladipo out, and then Bucks even have more guys, Middleton's still trying to figure things out, second half of the season and all that with the come back from injury and all that. There's just whoever's the healthiest. If Giannis looks like Giannis, they're going to win this game.
100%.
So,
So talking about health, unfortunately, another health question mark is the Sixers Nets series. Even though it is 4-0, Sixers did sweep as of I think it was that yesterday. That was the 2 o'clock game or 2 days. Yeah. So the Sixers Nets. This one was kind of just Mikal Bridges kept the Nets in relevancy, but I mean they had an under 500 record since the trade. So I mean the fact that that was how far ahead they were with KD and Kyrie. I don't have a ton to say about any part of this series. I really hate to do this. But I will say, looking forward, and I'm glad that you said that you made the Sixers finals pick, and I'd love to be on that bandwagon with you, but we'll talk about my team in just a second that I think will make the East. Is Tyrese Maxey the second most important player for the Sixers in round 2, assuming if Embiid is healthy?
Yeah, I think so. I think Harden is definitely showing his regression and all that. And that they have a big offseason coming up too. So this is very crucial for them, this run and all that, because the window is slowly closing and all. Then they got to figure out if they're going to pay Maxey, that rookie max that he's going to want. They got a lot of things to figure out. But yeah, I think he's second most. He's just a dynamic scorer. Right now, Harden just isn't the Harden that they, right now he's like a super role player. I know someone said that like a few weeks back or whatever last week, and people were like, that's not the case. But like, yeah, I think right now he's like a super high level role player right now. And then that's good because he's still a great passer and all that. Or I think he led the league in assists, right? So you're still getting a great passer and all that. He's just not as dynamic as a scorer. And right now, Maxey's taking that. And, when Embiid, is doing what Embiid does, that's still pretty tough. And then you got Tobias as a fourth option. That's tough. That's really even if Harden is the third option, that's tough, for most teams. And Brooklyn just had no shot. Like they just had no shot. It was just like whatever KD and Kyrie did in the first half, they just, they piggybacked off that and just had enough wins to figure it out. But yeah, Maxey I think is the second most important player. Because what he's able to do with the ball in his hand and just he makes people look silly and all that and just an offensive machine. I didn't think he was going to be this good offensively, to be real, coming out of Kentucky.
Neither did I.
Yeah, I didn't see this level of score. I think he would, I thought he'd be a solid scorer, but not where now I'm like, man, this guy could average 25, 26 a game, and be an all-star, and that's the Sixers are going to try to, that's the big thing the Sixers are going to try to figure out this offseason is, okay, Harden's going to want a lot of money. He's not Harden. He's going to want $200 million.
Yeah.
Do we just give Maxey the 200? Rather give it to him where he's going to keep getting better and better and can be an all-star. And just, Harden, hey, it was thanks for helping us, but we're gonna go with Maxey as our 2, and then go that way. That's they got a lot of things to figure out there.
Yeah, that was all great points, and that's kind of where I was leaning in that thought process. Also, just a PSA to people who do casually follow the NBA draft. It's not that hard. Just trust Kentucky guards; they're all going to work out at some point. Like. It just is what it is. Like really this is another record where you're like, where did Tyrese Maxey go? Oh, he went to Kentucky. Wow, yeah.
He was 20th. I think he was like late teens or 20s. Yeah. It's like how?
Don't overthink Cason Wallace. He's a really good defender with a. I'm not gonna I don't want to dive into drafts. But
Cason Wallace.
I do too. So
like I said, don't look at the stats and all. That's why you can't focus on stats. That's why with use your eyes and just understand the situation with college and all that. Like, all right, who is he playing with? What's the system and all that? Like,
Yeah.
Because that's a big thing in college, right? You know, you can look at a guy's numbers and be like, oh, he shot 38%. He's inefficient. Well, what's the system? Is he playing with other players who are actually half decent? If, you know, there's a lot to look at. And I just think everybody got Maxey wrong. I know few draft guys that were high, top 10 and all that, but, you know, that's a bad miss for a lot of teams.
It worked out well ultimately, and he's going to be really important for them. If I have it right, the winner of that series, that would be Celtics Hawks would be the winner of that series that plays them, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's my segue. We're going to talk about the Celtics Hawks for a second here. Celtics are up 3-1. The Hawks obviously won Game 3. They made Game 4 really interesting. Boston kind of showed some inconsistencies. I actually don't have a question written down for Boston, so I kind of just wanted to have a conversation. But you do think it's over?
DeJounte's out next game.
Well,
he's suspended and all that. So
taking that into consideration, yeah, of course. And Tatum might be suspended too. I mean, I don't see why he may or may not have, but yeah,
a lot of complaining. A lot. I know it's playoff time. Even Josh Hart complains a lot. I'm like, all right, Josh, relax now, buddy. Like you're complaining every possession. Like it's like calm down and all that. But yeah, a lot of complaining going on. But it is what it is. That always happens, you know. So, but yeah, DeJounte out. It's Hawks are another team that got a lot of things to figure out this offseason. And because that team, you know, is not the right pieces around Trey. Yep. I know a lot of people get on Trey and all that and say, oh, he's overrated because we saw the piece, he's overrated. I don't think he's overrated. I just think his teammates got worse. He got better, his teammates got worse. That doesn't mean he's overrated. It means you didn't put the right pieces around him. John Collins got worse. You know, the rookie, the young pieces they had haven't emerged yet. You know, that's not his fault.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, that's just
the shooting numbers are I mean, last year we saw a guy who was making 34% from three, and this year it's under 30. So it's, you know, there are some things that I'm like, okay, I want to see the consistency, but I agree with you. Like, it kind of changes your whole offense whenever you're having a guy like Trey, you're having to compensate on defense for. So you're automatically having to change your whole roster, which is why I like Sadiq Bey. I loved that move. I thought it was going to be really good for them long term as a two-way player, but. And obviously Capella's still there. I always forget that he's a Hawk, but at the same time, it's like you have the flexibility to move on and use a Kongwu and get young again because Trey's still young, no pun intended. Like this team is something you can kind of retool, which is why I questioned the Herter move when it happened. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, the Kings, losing him was tough and all that, but just some not good transition moves they've made. Transactions they've made.
I'm in the camp of I think Landry Fields can do well. I'm in the camp of if you're an intelligent basketball guy, if you played basketball and you went to an Ivy League, there's probably some correlation with intelligence. Like let's just be real. Like okay, like he's at Harvard. I believe he's Harvard or he's Stanford. Ivy League of some sort. Is he really? I thought he was. Well, either way, he's a basically. I know. I was giving you a little prop there. I love Landry. I thought he was really fun. Really
he had
cool
a nice rookie. He had a nice run at his rookie season with us.
3-and-D guy in 2K too for a while when I was playing there. So, but no, I really do think he's intelligent. I do think he'll figure it out. It's obviously his second full year in that role. So I think they'll be fine. The one thing I'll take away from the Celtics Hawks series that I really want to look forward to, just kind of watch a little bit more, is other than Game 3 when all of Boston struggled, let's just be real, the best rotation or the best look that they had as a guard was Derek White. Derek White's been unbelievable this series, and those minutes are going to be really, really integral where he pulled smart, Missoula did, for the fourth quarter, because he was playing poorly, and then he realized they had the game in their hands for the better part of the 6-minute mark, and they were like, well, I don't want to screw up this relationship with Smart, so we put him back in. And obviously that game got close.
That's going to cost them, man. That's the one thing I worry about Boston. It's the Marcus Smart effect. Because there's going to be times where you need Derek White down the stretch.
Derek White's been a better player consistently this whole series.
Yeah, and Smart wasn't the same impact player he was defensively, and the shooting numbers were down. It's just that's the thing. And I felt like there was times last year I'm just like, oh, why is what is Marcus Smart doing? Yep. Those players are frustrating. The players that are like, what are you doing?
Yeah, but then what he's going to bring you on the other end, or in a smarter situation.
Yeah,
if you keep the ball out of his hands, it's okay. That's why the Derek White. They ran a lineup most of this series that when they win the game 1, 2, and 4, their best lineup was Derek White, Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, and Robert Williams. That's the best lineup they can throw out there. Period.
Yep.
It is what it is, and that's no disrespect to Marcus Smart, but it's the most consistent lineup that gives them the most versatility on both ends of the floor. That is the ultimate. you're going to rebound. Al Horford's going to be able to stretch it out, even though he's starting to show his age at 37. It's okay. 37 years old. I'm okay with you showing your age in basketball.
But we might see a lot of Smart next series because with
Probably.
Maxey and all that. So
and trying to get him to let Smart bully up on Maxey for 4 to 7 games, and then Horford be more prepared for later on as they make it further if they do. So it's okay. They're in a place where they have to rely on Robert Williams being healthy, and that's obviously a really important piece.
He made a big impact yesterday too. He showed it.
All right, let's hit the West. Some of these, whatever. Nuggets, Timberwolves. That game last night was really fun. If you were up at 12:40, I think 5 Eastern when it went to overtime.
I tried.
I try to. What I do is I try to structure where I'm doing either editing or writing while the game is happening. So use the game breaks and all the media timeouts. So I try my best, and it keeps me awake between that. Where I'm watching game, I'm looking at the computer, watching game, computer. So I try to keep myself attentive. But it is hard. As somebody who watched the Nuggets and the Kings a lot this year because they were the 10 o'clock game on a slow night, it's I've done it plenty of times now. Nuggets obviously should have probably as Doc Rivers famously said, they were playing with their meat a little bit. They were playing with their food. Let me just clarify for him.
That's got to be frustrating. That's got to be frustrating when
they literally were. They were in the motions last night. They were literally just going through the motions. It was annoying and it was frustrating. As a guy who really supports this Nuggets team and really thinks they can win this West, I know Anthony Edwards obviously averaging 32 and 4. That's somebody that you're gonna have to take seriously, but yeah, you can't lose a game 4 like that if you're gonna want to be a competitive team long term. Sweep should have been happened.
It should have been a sweep. Now it's gonna be a gentleman's sweep most likely, but they should have just got rid of them, get ready for the next series and all that. But because you don't want. They're going to win the series, obviously, but you just don't want to give a team like that has nothing to lose any type of hope.
Yeah.
See, when they got good players on their team. We know what Anthony Edwards can do. You know what Cat can do. They got some guys, but they got a lot of injuries. You should have just it should be over. It should have been a sweep and all that.
And did show it, though. And proved it. He's an end-of-game guy. I know the steal did go into overtime, the fourth quarter last shot for him was stolen by Murray, but it was a good double team. There were some things there I liked. But
they got to make it his team. It has to, I think it is his team already, but they got to make it his team. They have to build this team around him. Karl Anthony Towns is shown that you can't build it around him. Now, he's still a good player and all that, but this is Anthony Edwards' team. So you got to build a team around him. That's your future. That's your franchise player. That's a future potential superstar. You got to build a team around him because he could take over games. So he's got to be the centerpiece, and they got to figure out in the offseason because they're another team. They're going to be in luxury, hell and all that. And to be an 8 seed, that's not worth it. So they got to figure out some moves to better equip Anthony Edwards to have success in the playoffs in further years.
Where we are in the NBA, no team has ever handcuffed themselves forever because there's always a move to get out of it now and the way things are moving. I hate to do this lazy comparison, but I do truly believe this. I don't think they're comparable players like a lot of people said in the draft in 2020, but this situation with building around a guy like Ant reminds me of Dwayne Wade's first couple of years in Miami. I know they won a chip in 3 years, and that's obviously not happening in Minnesota, but it reminds me of how they had to retool the roster and go get a guy like Shaq, which maybe they thought was the Rudy Gobert trade, but they have a guy like Cat who they should be utilizing those two together, and it's not working, and I can see how they're going to figure it out. Maybe it's Alex Rodriguez's guy to maybe he can figure it out. I don't know. It's kind of odd, but it's
A-Rod needs to figure it out. He needs to figure it out because it is Minnesota. He's not going to get guys to go to Minnesota and play ball and all that. So
Tim Connolly from Denver is not a guy that, he's obviously made some unbelievable picks, and Jokic and Porter Jr. and some other situations there in Denver, made a couple of runs there in the West, but it's going to be interesting. The question I had, and I hate to do this, be negative Nancy, but I do think it's a conversation worth having, and I also want your opinion on it because I've been public with this very, very clearly. Have you seen enough from the Gobert trade this year to think it was a complete mistake and one of the worst trades ever?
I've said it a billion times. It just didn't make sense. Because why? Karl Anthony Towns needs to be playing more in the post. He plays as if he's Anthony Edwards, but you're not. You don't move like him. You just can't do it. We look at his 3-point percentage and it's cool, but a lot of it is just on wide open threes and all that, so it didn't make sense. A guy like him playing on the perimeter is not what you want, especially defensively where he's barbecue chicken. Let's be real. Can't do that. It's barbecue chicken. In today's NBA, if this would have made sense 20 years ago, this would have been, if this was 20 years ago, I think people would have been like, oh my God, they made the heist of the century. They got Rudy Gobert and now they're going to play. And like, this isn't that no more. You need spacing and all that. And that's what hurt them this year. That's what hurt them. Lack of spacing and all that. And Rudy was not Rudy and all that defensively. So it's just like, I don't get. And then the guy you traded. And then you look at Kessler, what's his face? Was blanking out. Walker Kessler.
Yep.
And you're just like, we could have got him for pennies on the dollar.
It was technically a 5th draft pick. It was 4 picks and Walker Kessler, who was recently picked. I mean, it's just not fair.
He could have done, what Rudy Gobert for a cheaper price. And it's just, I'll never get that. And it's gonna, like I said, they could probably figure something out, but they're not right now though. And to me, don't want to upset your future superstar in Anthony Edwards. We know how this works. And like Dallas is going through the same stuff right now. It's just like, today's players now are not going to sit around and wait and just let you, no, you're not going to ruin my legacy and all that. Hey, next year, who'll be surprised if Edwards is just like the same? Nah. And it's Minnesota too. You should know that too. It's not like you can just get free agents and all that. So that should have came up in their mind. Like, okay, we have to. This is just not the right move and all that. Let's just go with Cat and Edwards and just do that. Because we can't make a move like that. And if it backfires, Anthony Edwards is gonna want out. I mean, people are already putting Anthony Edwards on different teams even before that trade. So now you're definitely gonna have the rumblings and all that. So.
I think it's already backfired. That's the worst part about it. Is that that's kind of where we are. The lack of depth this year. Obviously, you give up a ridiculous amount of players, regardless of the picks. You're losing valuable assets, and they feel like they won because they kept McDaniels. And it's like, I'm sorry, but that one guy is not going to change your franchise in this year. No. And neither is an 8 seed versus the Nuggets. Like they weren't going to win this series in any way. Just the fit and where Rudy, I think, has regressed to, and as I think just sometimes
and nobody likes Rudy.
That's it. I think some of the reputation
nobody likes
really
Rudy.
does stinks. I hate to be like that, but like
it's so simple. No one likes
it. It walks like a duck. It talks like a duck. It's probably a duck.
This is the same guy that was doing all this to the microphone before COVID happened, and the next day
he's never gonna live that down.
Ruined
the
NBA.
Guys.
Like, and you just always hear that like people just don't vibe with the guy, and I think you really hurt the locker room when you bring a guy. Yeah, okay. You want to look at the accolades? Cool. The 3-time defensive player of the year and all that.
How about we look at offensive metrics? How about we look at anything offensively that's going to ruin you? If you're off the floor, you're better. They're a better team. It's stupid. He's a horrible offensive player. There are moments where he is literally being told exactly what to do. Ant had a play in the fourth quarter. They're walking back from a timeout. I believe it was an overtime, actually. And Ant is literally talking to him, and I can see him talk with his hands and basically positioning him. They're at midcourt going to, like, hey, do this, be here. I'm not throwing you the ball, but at least space better. Like, it's literally just he was explaining spacing.
Offense is like a different language to him. Like, there was one play yesterday where I think it was it Conley? It was Conley. He's bringing the ball up. It's fourth quarter. And Gobert has the nerve to position himself maybe a few feet below the 3-point line and ask for the ball. And Conley's just like, no.
I'm not doing that.
Then he repositions himself, lower in the post. And like, no, bro, you're not going to do anything with it. You have no moves. You're literally just in the dunk. The only thing you could do is just get offensive rebounds, and that's it. Like,
he should be setting every screen that they run on offense for the rest of history. Like, he should be setting every screen, and he would probably average 15.
You can average 20. He can average 20 if you wanted to, just off screens, pick and rolls and all that. But
it's frustrating. We spent longer on this series than we spent on Hawks Celtics, which is so bad.
In the chat, that's probably Rudy is maybe one of the top 4 discussions we have and how much he just
sucks.
Ruins this team, and we're trying to save Anthony Edwards from Minnesota and their bad decisions. It's like when you think Minnesota is going to figure it out, right? You think, oh man, Minnesota, they may have some here. Anthony Edwards looks like he's going to be a star. McDaniels looks like he could be an all NBA defender. Cat had a great season. He was all NBA last year. And then, like, you know what, guys, let's figure a way to ruin this. Let's add Rudy Gobert. Yeah, let's do that. And now your franchise, you go from being, this is a team on the rise for the next 3 years to now, like, we're going to be here in 3 years. Like,
yeah.
A disaster.
All right. On a better note for Phoenix Suns fans, contrary to the hat for YouTube audience, I'm wearing I just love throwback stuff in the NBA. That's why I'm wearing it.
Best.
But Suns Clippers is a series talking about on a better side of things. Hopefully Suns fans feel better about this series. This is my favorite question. I want to talk a little bit about the series because I think there's some load management stuff that obviously is frustrating there. And I really wish I was being funny, but like Kawhi is ultimately going to be hurt, and then maybe he wasn't hurt in Game 4, but then PG's already out. So what do? They try to be competitive. The Suns win by 12 in Game 4. So as we're recording this, they don't play again until tomorrow night, the 25th. Hopefully pod's out by Tuesday before 10 p.m. But what have you seen from Devin Booker specifically? I am a Devin Booker truther through and through. Somebody that, again, is very similar to the RJ Barrett vein that has gotten me in a lot of trouble in fantasy basketball, seasons and group chats and things. And talk to me about Devin Booker. He's averaged 34.8 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists. He's been the alpha dog, and honestly, in the entire Western playoffs, if not the entire playoffs as a whole, he's been a top 5 guy in the playoffs this year, if not top 2 or 3. Talk to me about what you see from Devin Booker, maybe some things that are going to be really helpful for them as they will play the winner of Nuggets Wolves.
He's just that good. He's just special, especially in the mid range, and they got 2 of the best mid range players, and 3. CP can still, do things in the mid-range and all that. And he's just, if he was healthy, if he had played enough games, he's definitely an all-NBA player this year. He's just what he can do with the ball. And he just constantly, getting Kevin Durant is like, pick your poison. Can't double book because you got KD. Can't double. It's just, to me, this is just free-flowing basketball. And if you're Devin Booker, you're like, wow, I'm used to getting double teamed and all that. Now you can't double me. And I'm just gonna eat you alive and all that. So, and especially that there's no Kawhi or PG to be able to defend. It's just gonna be impossible for the Clippers and all that. And that's why I think people are so high on the Suns and all that. They don't have the depth and all that. And I think that's what the biggest concern with them. But you got 2 guys who can give you 60 in a game and all that, and maybe even more. It's just hard. And the Clippers, they're a very deep team, and it's actually, helped them this series to even, that they're not getting killed in the series. But Book is just, he's on a level. I think he's feeling disrespected too. There's a disrespect, and he's feeling very disrespected because he kind of gets forgotten. We forget, and then you look at him, you're like, he just dropped 40. He just dropped that. Like he's just a smooth player and all that. That move he had on the at the 3-point line on the right side, that last game, it was just it was just poetic and all that. But his mid-range game and all that, he keeps the mid-range game alive. It's not dead. Book and KD still keep it alive, and Kawhi too when he's healthy and all that. But Book's just he's on a mission. I think when we 2 years ago, the last 2 years, last year they won how many games? 67 games. They looked like they were going to dominate, and they lose, to lose to Dallas and all that. And Game 7, one of the craziest
worst Game 7 of all time. I looked it up. There is no second best Game 7. Like it was just the worst.
It's mind boggling what happened in that game. Then the year before, obviously losing in the finals, being up 2-0. You could smell the championship. Yeah. You could feel the ring on you.
2-0. They're bringing it into the building at least ready to go in a few games. Like it's Larry O'Brien trophy somewhere in the building.
It's there. You could see the jerseys. You could see the boxes and all that. And that's yours. But he just he's on a mission. And now you add KD to that, man. And then you don't have to worry reliance on CP to be your second scorer and all that. It's gonna be tough to beat them. It really is. I know they don't have the depth, but when you got guys like that, it's hard. It's hard. So he's on another level right now.
I love to see he probably chewed out very similar to how Anthony Edwards did it, but it was probably on level 100 instead. Mm-hmm. Devin had a moment where he was literally just completely laying into DeAndre Ayton, another guy, center, offensive. We'd love to see a little bit more maybe. Mm-hmm. But he literally just, if the clip's out there, I'll tweet it, I'll tag you, I'll re-quote it, whatever. He laid into him. I've never seen anything like it from him, and I know he's got that in him, and that's a guy, as somebody who's a believer, that's a clip I'm going to save and send to people and be like, hey, this is the kind of guy that Devin Booker is and was and is going to continue to be, and I think it's super important, and I'm sick of having these conversations with people who just blatantly do it to be hateful, and at the end of the day, he's showing you he's the best player in the playoffs right now, if not one of the top 3, and he's going to continue to show that whether he's he doesn't have to average 34.5 with KD, but like they're figuring out their offense. That is still a thing that is happening, whether people want to admit it or not.
They didn't play a lot together. Yeah.
At all. They've only played like 7 games together. So it's like this is a moment where he's going to have to be their perennial guy they lean on, and he's doing that very well. I don't want to spend forever on Devin Booker because I could have my own podcast about that. But I do want to ask you,
if you just look at the numbers.
Oh yeah, the counting stats are insane. Yeah, 34.8, 4.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, and that doesn't even show you the things he's doing as an intense defender. He's not a good defender, but he's an intense defender. He's forcing guys to take him seriously. He takes it personal now with things. I mentioned the fiery passion with Ayton. When Westbrook had that game 4 where he scored like 25 or 28, whatever it was, he took it personally when Westbrook scored on him. Like when guys are doing that and you're not good defenders, I like that. I want to see that you give a crap. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think I wrote in my piece from Portsmouth Invitational, I said sometimes on defense, I just want to see you care. Do you care? Yeah. And Devin Booker cares, and that's all that matters for them, and that's what's going to be really important. I want to forward think a little bit for them. I love this question. I don't have an answer, and I want to discuss it. So if the Suns win the title this year, even though it has never really happened in NBA history where a guy of KD's caliber, I'm talking top 25, top 45 player all time, I'm just giving you a general range. It's never really happened where a guy got traded midseason of his caliber. It's only happened maybe 5-6 times. Charles Barkley, Shaq, a few others. It's never happened where they won it that year. Shaq was 05, won in 06. Barkley obviously never won a title. That's another example. But there's a couple others. I know Oscar Robertson, I think, was in there as well. A couple others a long time ago that were traded and just didn't win a title the same year. So if the Suns win the title this year or next year, let's just be honest, whose legacy benefits more from the title? Is it Kevin Durant or CP3?
Oh, CP3.
Really? Is it that easy?
Yeah.
Am I overthinking this?
Yeah. People...
is KD going to shed the skin? This is my thing.
No,
because Chris is on his team, because Devin's on his team. Is it going to be the same argument?
It's going to be the same thing with KD. KD, the only way people are going to be like, it's okay if KD wins a championship with me and you. Like that's the thing. People want KD to win People want people to win championships with bums. That's the only way you get.
So stupid.
And it's crazy. It's like, Jordan, and it always comes back. Oh, Jordan had Scottie Pippen. Jordan had Ron Harper, Dennis Rodman.
Yep.
Jordan had a lot of good players.
Greg Hodges,
we're
throwing out names now.
Tony
Kukoc was out there.
Grant, those aren't slouches.
They're not. They're not.
Those are really good. Guess what, guys? You need really good players
to win championships. It's crazy.
It's just crazy. And I think people are still going to be like, well, he had to force his way. It didn't work in Brooklyn, so he had to force his way to a super team and win with CP and Book and all that. So people are still. Unless he wins it with nobodies, with a bunch of, and he even said it. You want me to win with rookies? Like, remember he brought up the Scoot Henderson. Like, you guys want me to win championships with Scoot, and it wasn't like people thought I was like throwing shade at Scoot. It wasn't. It was just like, and I understood what he meant. Like, you want me to win with rookies and all that? Like, guys, I need good players around me and all that. So, but yeah, CP, because just look how people talk about CP. The narrative around CP, oh, he's a loser and all that.
Gotta win a championship.
Up 2-0, gotta win a championship and all that. Like, do you know how good this man is?
How differently would we talk about Steve Nash, a 2-time MVP, if he won at least one championship? How differently would he be talking about? Think about it.
There with Isaiah and Magic and all. We're talking about
ridiculous.
And Stockton and all. And Stockton, hasn't won a championship. Like, imagine CP wins a championship and he does his thing, right? And he plays really good.
He's actually a competitive. I see what you're saying, though. He's actually a competitive player. Because if you ring chase, it's different.
Because, Gary Payton won a championship, but let's be real.
That was in 2006, 5 years after he left the Sonics.
That was way after his prime and all that, and we know, so, it was fun. I don't want to hear that, that's cool that he won, but he didn't win one in his prime and all that. It changes everything with CP.
It does.
The respect he'll get on his name, because he gets him, Westbrook, Harden are probably 3 of the most disrespected guys because they haven't won a championship. As if you don't win a championship, your career is not valid and all that. It's just the ring culture stuff is kind of gotten out of hand and all that. But if CP wins that, it erases that. People, you can't say, oh, CP didn't show up in this. Well, if CP's averaging 15 and 10, 15 and 9, and shooting 50%, 38% from 3, and they win the world championship, you got to shut up. You can't go, he choked and no, he won a championship. You got to put respect on his name now. And now people are going to be like, well, he might be the second greatest point guard of all time. If they want to push him past Isaiah and all that. I already think he's on that top 3
I do
list.
too. I don't
I think
remember. It was one of the most downloaded shows I've ever done, and we'll move on because we got to talk Kings, Warriors, and Lakers, Grizzlies. But I did a pod last year in the finals. I was like, I think it was after game 1, and it was basically just talking about game 1. But then I brought up a thought process, and obviously the guy on there was a very big Chris Paul fan. But I was like, hey, let's do our top 5 point guards all time and see where Chris ends up. And like I think we all had him at least 3, which is like just the point guards all time. He probably shouldn't be there. But then you really look at some of the stuff, and you're like, he's at least top 5.
Everywhere he goes, they
crazy.
win. Everywhere they go.
The Oklahoma City Thunder year is the biggest argument for that. Yes.
That's the perfect. Everyone thought they were going to be the worst team in the NBA and all that. And
42-40, I believe, if I'm correct.
I'm just saying, Trev, like,
crazy.
We need to put more respect. Everything just can't be championship and that's it. Oh, he didn't win a championship. Like, no, look at this man's career.
He was 20-10 in New Orleans. Like, it just didn't. He was nuts.
And he probably could have been a more dynamic scorer. He probably could have averaged 25 if he wanted to.
100%.
He's just he to me top 3 all time, regardless of championship or not. Like, it's just, to me, I respect his game and what he do, his impact on the team and all. And if you put a championship in, I don't want to hear anyway. I need apologies from people if he wins a championship, because a lot of people disrespecting him and all that.
Those apology forms we see on Twitter, I want one of him the moment they win the
Westbrook one right now and all that, because people disrespect him way too much and all that.
I want Chris Paul's ready with signatures. I got names I'll send it to. I'm ready.
I know exactly who disrespected. I know who you are. I will hit you up and I'll bring you on the show or DM you and be like, hey, send the apology, because he gets disrespected way too much.
So, unfortunately, this Kings Warriors series, when we pivot there, is going to be clouded. De'Aaron Fox, unfortunately, is going to be out for Game 5. And I know that is not the great cloud that we want to be talking about right now with, obviously the Giannis thing we talked about earlier with Miami. They don't play again until Wednesday. So, for him to already be listed as out Monday morning was when it first came out is kind of – it's not good. So, obviously, that's going to matter because he's their leading scorer. Him and Steph are averaging exactly 31.5 a game, the same. He's averaging 6 rebounds. Steph's averaging 5. He's averaging 7 assists per game. Steph's averaging 3.5. So, they're playing very comparable right now. Obviously, some of the impact and shooting splits are different. Really quick, I think three-point shooting has killed the Kings. I know you can't rely on it, but when you play a team 7 times potentially, you have to make your threes eventually. They're shooting 30%. And then Mike Brown made a really good point before we kind of hit a couple things, and I'll give you the question. Mike Brown made a really good point after Game 4. Instead of doing the typical coach speak where it's like, we're not getting calls, da-da-da-da, he goes, we're driving in transition and even in half court, we're driving into 2 or 3 guys and expecting that call to happen. And it's not always a foul. So for him to take ownership of that and to be really, really good, Mike Brown deserves to be the first unanimous head coach ever. That was unbelievable. I'm really happy for him. And I think he makes really great points about where they are, and that's all I wrote all that down pre his injury today, so I'm, again, great cloud. This question is kind of funny because I wrote it. I'm going to go ahead and ask it because I wrote it this morning before the news came out. What does Sabonis need to do to help them win this series? Again, wrote this down pre-Fox wrist injury. So obviously that answer probably changes.
He's definitely going to be – he's definitely got to step up, especially with no Fox and all that. And I think it's going to be tough because he's been struggling and all that. He's just not getting enough – he's not able to do his thing in the post and all that and be able to dominate. It's just, and now you don't have Fox there to help create even more, maybe more one-on-ones. The focus is going to be on stopping Sabonis, and then it's like, who's he going to kick it out to? Huerter hasn't played great. He struggled last. He had 2 4 points last game. So he struggled. He's been very up and down the series. So you need Keegan to step up. And all that just to open up the floor and all that. I got to be able to hit the shots from perimeter. Monk's going to have to do more stuff and all that. So it's been a tough series. I don't know if it's just the whole Draymond stuff and the physicality. Because I've seen it with when he was especially in Indiana playing against like Randall and all that. The physicality can get to him and all that.
Sabonis? Oh yeah, it's definitely gotten to him this series.
So I think it's the case. Is just he's just letting the physicality gets him and all that. He's not be able to play his game. Be able to have space and be able to kick it out and all that. This hasn't been the same and all that. But now with Fox out, they need him. They're gonna need a 30-18 game, 30-20 game. He only has like 30 points in the last 2 games, so he's definitely gonna need to step up and all that. I know he has the sternum now, so I don't know how much of that's affecting him and all that, but he struggled, before that. So they need him, but need their role players. Davion's gonna have to step up, all that and have a big game, especially guarding Steph. And that's there was some place he guarding Steph, and Steph's just making shots, and it's like just sometimes
that
nothing.
fallback where he it looked like he threw the ball, like Steph and Davion's just like, what can I do? They pan to him and he's like, what can I do?
Yeah,
he's like,
there's
just makes
nothing you
stupid,
can. You
ridiculous
just
shots.
made that you need. He played great defense and all that, but Harrison Barnes too. Like I feel like he cost him that game. He cost him that game, and now that Fox is out, they're gonna look at game 4 and be like, because if Fox is out, you're up 3-1. You're like, all right, we got 3 shots to close this one out.
Exactly.
All right, so like, all right, if Fox is out, it sucks, but maybe we'll get him back. I don't know how long the fractured finger is gonna take him to heal and all that. I think I'm on a shooting finger too, so
it is. He's left-handed.
So that's gonna be tough, but. Whatever along, he's like, all right, we could close them out. We got 3 shots to close them out. Now it's 2-2. Now it's like, oh, that's a huge swing. And now they're going back to the crib and all that, and they can rely on the crowd, but now you need your role players to step up.
I'm going to play devil's advocate really quick because Sabonis averaged the most rebounds on his team this year and the most assists on his team this year. I don't think people understand that. Six assists from a big man. Plays very almost Jokic-esque in a sense. I'm not comparing them, and I want people to understand
like a mini version.
But I said it all year in the beginning of the year. I said it at the beginning of the year up until it got to where it made no sense. But I was like, why don't they just play Sabonis like Jokic for 5 games? Just let him see what he's capable of as an assist guy. And I know the system is there.
Work him on the foul line and all that.
Yeah, which they do. They do that very well already. Yeah. But why not just let him be a facilitator? I know he's not got the same handle. I know he's not got the same vision as Jokic. I get that. But this is the place where you're going to – what have you got to lose? If anybody like Mike Brown's going to do it, or if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Mike Brown. Kitchen sink game. They're going to have to win, like you said. 3-1's different than 2-2. And it's not the shots that are killing him. He's 66% at the rim this series. He's 40%. This is from the field, from that near the free throw line area. They call it like the free throw line extended. And then he's 33% at the top of the key. And 0% from 3. So on 2 attempts. So like his shots get progressively worse the further he gets away, and we know that. But this is not a guy like you. Draymond knows how to defend it. That play where Fox came down and Sabonis was going to set the pick at the end of the game. Draymond literally, if you go back and watch it, someone had an unbelievable breakdown on Twitter about it. Draymond said, "You know what? And I'm not switching." He's like, "I'm going to jump up and I'm going to stand exactly where Fox goes for that 3." Or for that, jump up, cut back, mid-range shot he takes. So obviously Fox is important in those clutch situations. That's what's going to win them the series if he comes back. I think he should be. It's finger, or they should be able to figure out how to stint it. At this point, you're going to have him come back. But
yeah,
Sabonis knows what to do in that high pick and roll area, but Draymond Green knows how to defend it. So being devil's advocate here, I want to sit here and say that I think the Kings can win. I think I picked them in 6, so this is obviously not the perfect scenario to be having this conversation because that means you're going to have to win at least one without Fox. But he's going to have to be really intricate in understanding where to pass from the pick and roll. And Davion Mitchell, this is going to be a proving ground for him as a point guard. I mean, he's a point guard through and through. He's a backup point guard at that, and that was kind of his biggest thing was why would you take a backup point guard with good defense in the top 10? But, this is a place where he can prove it like he did at Baylor, and I think it's really, really important for this Kings series.
Oh, yeah. If he plays like he did last game, they're going to have a shot, to win. But like I said, Monk's going to have to step up. I'm going to assume probably Monk's probably going to get the start, I would say, but probably gets the start. You're going to see we need more, Davion played 27 minutes last game. If Huerta continues to stink it up, it's going to be hard to play him.
I mean, they're going to have the everyone makes a good amount of shots game. Like, it's going to have to be Keegan Murray again. He was bad all series until last game. The Herter's not been stellar. He was in game 1, but they're going to have this series where it's just like, you know what? Wow, we're all making threes. Like, what can I say? Now, again, this could be the difference maker. Fox is not a three-point shooter, and obviously they're missing – it's common sense. They're missing a guy that averages 31.5 this series. Like, it's common sense there. At the same time, though, 30% from 3, whether you have him or not, if you shoot 44% from 3 on decent attempts, you're in any game. Even against the Warriors, who can miss threes. They're human. They're going to do it eventually.
They got to use that home court advantage to their their advantage. They got to light the beam and all that. And role players tend to play better on at home, so they're hopefully they're hoping that that's the case, that their guys step up at home.
All right, we'll hit Grizzlies Lakers really quick, only because they play tonight. We're recording this, finishing up around 7 something. They'll play at 10 o'clock tonight. Anthony Davis is averaging 22, 12.7. Let me not short amount of rebounds. 2.7 assists on 2.7 turnovers, so just a wash there. 1.7 steals, 5 blocks per game, for those that didn't realize that. He's a plus 11.7 plus minus, and he's averaging less than 2.5 fouls. So I'm prefacing that with two things. Is obviously, I'm going to ask really quick, would the Grizzlies be better off benching Dillon Brooks? Yes or no? I mean, we don't have to get into Dillon Brooks, but would you? I mean, at this point, they need to play whoever they can, but
they need to play him though. That's the thing.
So they're not better off.
They need him. They just don't have bodies right now. They need the physicality, even if he's gonna, just be a nuisance. You just
talked all that junk, and I'm not trying to be the disgruntled Lakers fan here. He talked all that junk, and he played like 18 minutes in Game 3.
And he can't shoot. Even Doris Burke was taking jabs, which is funny.
She was multiple times.
I don't mind like him talking and all that because he's a second round pick, and then second round picks usually have a big chip on the shoulder and all that. We've seen Draymond, we see Pat Bev, who undrafted, but so I don't mind it. But eventually you gotta do something.
I mind it against LeBron, and that's not a Lakers fan. I think Bill Simmons made a great point where second round pick, undrafted, doesn't matter. Like you're there, you deserve to be able to talk a little bit. But my point is like not being that kind of caliber of player. Honestly, as a historian of just understanding basketball for its history and understanding where that we are in the place that it is, he does need to respect LeBron a little bit. I get the competitor jab stuff, but like this is LeBron James. This isn't like he talked against, I don't know, insert role player here. Like it's not like he did it against Keegan Murray. Like this is not Dillon Brooks going at a guy of his same skill set and his same caliber of player. And I don't think that we're not disrespecting because like people always say the gap between you and me and LeBron is way, or Dillon Brooks is way bigger than the Dillon Brooks to LeBron gap. I get that. But, man, like, just a little respect for the king, who, by the way, knows how to back it up. 20 years of history, we know he's going to do it. And
all-time leading scorer. He knows a little bit about scoring and all that. But
it is what it is. I know. That was more of a joke question for you.
Memphis,
I have a real one. But
it's just going to be tough for them. They just don't have enough bodies and all that. And Jazz has to do too much and all that. And
just to me,
but it's how the roster's constructed right now.
It is.
It's kind of a roster that doesn't really.
It shows you how reliant they are on Steven Adams, which is kind of scary to say out loud. But him being gone really changed the series because they need him against a guy like Anthony Davis, which is why
against AD, you just need bodies and all that. Jaren Jackson, he, the fouls, especially when you don't have that another guy coming off the bench that could, be able to have the physicality and all that. Jaren Jackson, he fouls, they're screwed, and that's his big thing. He fouls a lot,
averaging less than 4 fouls the game this series, which is important. Yeah. He's doing well.
He's doing all right, but you need bodies against the Lakers and all that, and Memphis has to figure out some stuff, especially if they lose, regardless if they lose, because I don't think they won't advance past the second round or anything, but they got to figure out this roster, especially with Ja, because this roster currently they can win games in the regular season, but in the 7-game series, when things get tightened up, you need some, I just don't like the way this roster is.
Half-court offense is very important in the playoffs when things slow down, and the Grizzlies' half-court offense is in the bottom 5 in the league.
Yeah,
that's a simple answer.
They got to definitely upgrade the wings because their wings they've had a wing problem for a while, but
they keep drafting these wings that they think are going to come up. The Jake Laravias of the world, the David Roddies, the Dillon Brookses. They keep staking stabs at
Zaire Williams was taken in the top 10, and I don't think has he played the series? I don't even think he's played a minute.
Much. Yeah.
So, and that was a pick that was like very questionable. Like taking him that high, and he was supposed to be that guy. Hasn't been the case. So they got to figure out that wing situation because, especially with Dillon Brooks, 13th on the field. I think he shoots like 30. He shot like 39% overall, and like that's just not what you need. You need more efficiency, and I think Bane is more of a third guy than he is a number 2 guy. But in this situation, he has to be a 2. He's a great player. I think as a third guy, that's tremendous to have a guy who can shoot like that. But you can't have 2 short guys like Bane and Morant, being your 1-2. It's kind of hard to do that, So they're in trouble. I think they're in trouble. I thought Memphis could, their youth and all that, they'd be able to just the energy and all that, be able to win the series in 7. But I know the Lakers, they might wrap this up in 5. Because it's just Memphis is they're in trouble. They're in trouble.
So the real question, can this version of Anthony Davis and LeBron, assuming fully healthy, and obviously the Lakers role players, we know what we've seen the last 25 to 30 games since the deadline, can they make the finals this year with this roster? It's almost like a quick wit, like, just gun to your head answer. I hate to ask those kinds of questions, but can they make the finals? I'm not saying win it, just can they make it?
I don't think so. I just think you have to trust Anthony Davis to be healthy. LeBron, I know LeBron is
you can't take it out, but it's like
you can't,
just assume
right?
that they're playing like this. Like,
it's just hard to be like, well, yeah, they can if Anthony Davis is playing like an All NBA superstar, but it's like this guy's always on the floor. He's like Embiid. Embiid's always on the floor. And then he gets hurt and all that. So and then LeBron is like, he's his age.
38, plantar fasciitis.
He's got a lot of things that are, can't he last the whole, they have talent to do it, but I don't see it happening. I think eventually they just get too tired out but I'm not going to count out the Kang. Can't count out the Kang and all that. Cause if he can get it done, and win his fifth this year,
it'd be nuts.
This might be that and the 3-1 might be like this.
Yep.
Because this is they were maybe not a playoff team at one point this season. It's all about him. It's all about him and the record and all that. People were complaining about him making the record about himself, even though it is.
I would have done the same thing.
If I'm about to break the record, it's about
38,008 or whatever, 800.
Yeah, come on now. Like people, they stopped the game. Why would they do that? Jordan would never. I was like, everybody got to bring it back to Michael Jordan, like, and all that. But
yeah, I'm not getting.
They have what it takes, but it's just are they going to run out of gas? I feel like they're going to run out of gas eventually.
I hope that Rui, and I don't want to drag on, but I hope Rui and Jared Vanderbilt and D'Angelo Russell, who I've never been publicly a big fan of, but I think this is a good enough core that I think they're going to be really competitive. And I think if they make the Western Conference Finals, it will shock people. I think it will be like, wow, this team really just got it done. But they would play the winner of, they would play the winner of Kings Warriors. So I mean, neither team that is, that they get the Kings, they're better experienced. They get the Warriors. The Warriors aren't exactly the most stellar team, even though they're a 6 seed. They're battle tested. So are the Lakers. So I think it's just a matter of figuring out who they could beat and how. So.
Yeah.
All right.
That would be fun though. Lakers Warriors would be a lot of fun.
It would be. I would love to see the Kings make it, not because I want to see the beam be lit, but I also think it'd be fun. I think they can handle the Kings. So.
Kings would give the Lakers some trouble simply because they could just run up and down the court and all that, and they got fresh legs and all that. So that would be tougher. That might be tough. Steph is hard to guard too. So either or would be tough for them, just because But yeah, the Kings would be maybe a little bit tougher just because they got a lot of, especially if Fox is back. That's all predicated on Fox and all that. Yeah. So.
All right, let's rapid fire these at the end as we get out of here. First of all, thank you for your time with the playoffs. It was a lot of fun.
This has been a blast, bro.
I had two little, I always try to find something with the guests to talk about at the end. Maybe that has nothing to do with the topic. So I told you at the beginning I had a little source on you. It obviously was your former co-host, Mr. Stephen Gillespie, a guy I'm very fond of. Love Stephen. So like I said, if anybody is good with him, he's good with me. So he tells me you're a Duke fan, and I don't know why I didn't know that. So I wanted to make sure it was clear. I'm from Raleigh, so I grew up in Tobacco Road, born and raised here, never left here. So I have a very strong appreciation for college basketball. That's why my content took a shift that it did this year. But college basketball has been amazing. And Duke is one of those factors, obviously being in my backyard. My first media event this year ever was in Cameron Indoor. So just some really cool stuff there. That's not what we're talking about. I just want to know, 1 minute, what is your thoughts on Coach Shire in his first year, as it was a roller coaster? I went on record from watching the NC State game in Raleigh in person to obviously seeing them against Louisville towards the end of the year as they got really kicked up. I saw both versions of John Shire and figuring himself out. So what's your thoughts, 1 to 2 minutes, on his first year as head coach and maybe where you see next year looking?
First year, it went exactly how I thought. It's going to be a lot of ups and downs and all that. He had a good recruiting class, but he didn't have that, obviously, that Zion, that Jason Tatum, that Jabari Parker type player that could take over. So I knew that there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. Dealt with a lot of injuries early on with Derek, and Lively being hurt, trying to figure out the point guard situation. Proctor was, who reclassified and all that, was supposed to be a state, come in and make an impact. Didn't make the impact right away, but definitely figure out. But I just like that he he understood that he had to make a little bit of a shift with the point guard and all that with Roach and all that, and said, "Hey, Proctor, he's the more dynamic player. I need the ball in his hand more." And once he made that move, is when Duke started going on a roll. And obviously they won the ACC championship, tournament, and then we went to Tennessee, and they humbled us, especially defense. Proctor looked good and all that, but yeah, it went well, and he's bringing in another tremendous recruiting class, and he's probably going to bring in a couple more in the next few years, because some of the classes he could. I think the 2025 class that could be like the class. It could be the Zion, RJ, Cam Reddish. Like he could potentially bring in, Boozer and Cooper. That would be, but that's down the line and all that. I don't want to get too excited, even though that excites me a lot. But this class he has coming in, he's got guys Filipowski coming back, Proctor's back, or Mitchell's back, and you add with Stewart, TJ Power, and all the guys they're bringing, in this recruiting class. It's just it gets me excited. I think they're the number one team in the country going into next season. I mean, there's going to be a lot of pressure, and I think he handled the pressure well. Because listen, they always say you don't want to be the guy replacing the guy. That's especially when it's when you think Duke, you think Coach K, and that's a lot of pressure and all that. And it went off to a little bit of a tough start and all that, but he figured it out. He learned what works, what doesn't work. Took some guys out of rotation at let Proctor hold the ball more. Lively got healthy, especially Lively. That was huge. Him getting healthy and all that. Derek would have liked to have seen a little bit more Derek, but his injuries, kind of lasted more throughout the season and all that, and he really couldn't get his feet, stable there. But overall, I think it was how I thought it was. I didn't think we would win the ACC and all that, ACC championship and all that. So a little better than I expected. Just did solid, and like I said, bringing guys back, nice recruiting class coming in. I think I'm excited. I'm excited. Me and my co-host on the Get a Bucket podcast, Kev, he's a Michigan State guy. He's excited about his team and all that. But we talk about that, Duke and all season and all that. We always do a segment talking about our teams, and he feels the same way too. So it's a lot of excitement right now in Durham. It's a lot of excitement.
Yeah, there is, and I won't comment much, but just knowing where Shire was earlier in the year and seeing some of being out-coached, I think there's a difference between being out-coached and I think learning and understanding what you're good at.
100%.
And after I got to see and be in that room for the first time ever and just understand the presence that he has there, the dude's cool, calm, and collected at any moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like he might get out-coached, but it's not going to bother him. And I spent 15 minutes with him, and I think that was probably the most valuable 15 minutes this year in terms of some of my coverage, just because I got to see what his thought process is like and how he really thinks about the game of basketball. And I think he's going to be awesome. I hate to be the guy that's like, yeah, you're following the guy, like I'm with you there, but he's a really, really damn good replacement. I'm excited.
He learned. He when everyone was speculating who's going to be the next guy, I was like, oh, Shire.
I thought it was Capel my whole life. I really did. I was like, Capel's it. And then he took the pit job, and obviously
the thing is, it's not that Capel's a bad coach and all that, but you don't want that. People are going to go back to his stint in Oklahoma and all that. You wanted a guy fresh.
That's fair.
No record, no history, past history. Because everyone with Capel was like, well, how it ended at Oklahoma and all that. And then his time at Pitt hasn't been great till this season, right? So I think they wanted a coach that's just fresh. And I think this was years in the making and all that.
100%.
So this was, I think, not what you got. No, what it was always Shire. I always felt like, once I found out Shire was going to be on the staff and all, I'm like, oh, he's grooming him. And he learned from the best.
Emil's not a bad choice either. I thought Emil might have been, but he played a little sooner.
He's too young. I think Emil down the line, especially if they're winning and all that, and he's doing good recruiting.
Nolan Smith was another one. That was a big one.
I think that's why Nolan, obviously his family ties with Louisville. And I think that's made, I think 100%. Once he knew he wasn't in the running, that's why he went to Louisville, so to maybe get an opportunity to be a coach at Louisville down the line or somewhere else. But they made the right choice. I think most Duke fans, felt like he was the correct choice and all that. And if Coach K groomed him, so we're gonna rock with it.
All right, who's someone on your personal NBA draft big board, and we'll get out of here, that you think people are undervaluing? We're less than a month or less than 2 months from the NBA draft.
Ooh, undervaluing. Okay, all right. Undervaluing. I think I got a few guys. I think Maxwell Lewis is he was kind of like the flavor of the month for a little bit, and then he fell off. He's kind of struggled end of the season, but he's another guy that you have to look at and go deep dive and understood like his situation, and all that. It wasn't a great situation at Pepperdine and all that. And I just think he has an NBA game. He's someone I like a lot. He's like 6'7", 6'8", 7 foot wingspan, whatever. Like, he has the build and all. I think he could be a two-way guy, and really do something. So if someone's gonna get a steal, whether it's late in the first round with him. So I like him a lot, and I even think GG Jackson. I'm gonna stay. I've been rocking with GG since high school. I'm staying with him. I know a lot of people sour on him because body language and taking too many bad shots and up. But another situation where you have to, he's supposed to be coming into his freshman season, right? He reclassified and all that. No, he's a little bit older, but he's still reclassified. And just a lot of the stuff he does, if you want to stick with the positive stuff, you look at his game, you're like, oh, that's NBA. That's an NBA move. The handles, the way he gets to the basket, the step back, all that is NBA stuff. Now, I understand the other point is like, well, is he going to be able to do that if he's like the 25th pick and all that? I understood it, but if he gets into the right system and they coach him well, you could be getting yourself a steal in the late first round, maybe maybe an all-star down the line. Maturity things, that comes, I know people focus on that so much and all that. And I understand some of that, some of the body language and but frustrating situation, when you go from the guy, then you go to South Carolina and your team's winning, less than 10 games or 10, whatever they won. They were bottom of the SEC. So, he's someone I still, have him top 7, top 6 on my board, and I know there's people who have soured on him, have him in the bottom 20s. I still feel like, and if team does get him in the 20s, that I think they're going to get themselves good value. And, if they coach him right, get themselves a future all-star.
There's some young teams that have multiple first-round picks. He's not a bad choice there. I'm with you. I have him, I think, I'm updating my board. It'll be out on May 1st, but I have him somewhere, I think, in the lottery. So, I mean, it's not like –
That's fine, yeah.
I know it's not top 10, but it's somewhere like that late lottery, which is – and it's a testament to guys around him less than him. So.
Yeah, and then the interview is going to be crucial for him. I think I just saw Rafael Barlow have an interview. I didn't get to check it out, but I heard good things about it.
Yeah, I need to watch it as well. It looked really good from what I did see so far.
Yeah. I heard good things and all that. And that, to me, that was always a thing. It's like, all right, he's going to have to interview really well. If he interviews well and he explains, all right, I got frustrated, all that. And, just being young and immature. And I'm going to figure that out. I think that'll really help him. And then we'll see him back, in that lottery range. I think eventually he will get in that range. But if he goes late in 20s, someone's going to get them to steal.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time today. Everything for you will be linked in the description below. Twitter, as always, is on the screen right here as well. Be sure to go follow Chris on everything. Support all of the shows and the work. Draft's going to be huge, so definitely want to keep talking ball with you in the future. I appreciate the time once again. Feel free, like I said, to like, comment, subscribe on the video, on the podcast. Support Chris. Support all the stuff you see in the description. Thank you very much, my friend. Good luck in Game 5.
Yes, man. Appreciate you, man. It was a lot of fun, man.
Bing bong.
Thanks so much to Chris Lebron for coming and talking NBA playoffs, a little bit of draft as well in this podcast. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube video. If you're on a podcast platform, a 5-star rating would do just fine, and a review. Give 2 Pointers a follow on all social media platforms at 2 Pointers or at the 2 Pointers Podcast. Everything linked for myself and Chris will be below. Feel free to show us some love and support. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget, link in the top description, $20 off your first purchase, SeatGeek.com or in the app. This has been the 2 Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett. We'll see you later.
Bing bong.